Good afternoon everyone. Thursday again, it's Jaffa Club, and this afternoon for our craft section we are going to be cooking an amazing creation. It's called the Exodus Parfait Pudding Perfecto. See, I threw a little bit of French in there for you. Now, why would I be doing this? Well, we've been talking about the Exodus. We've been talking about how the Israelites were in slavery in Egypt. They were having a really bad time, way worse than you guys are. True, they didn't have to do homeschooling, but they had to work out in the hot sun, and they had really mean bosses, and they didn't get paid for it. They didn't have enough to eat. They were not enjoying themselves. So if you think you've got it rough at the moment, think about the Israelites. Anyway, they prayed to God, and God had everything under control as usual. Now he picked on a particular person called Moses, and he got Moses to keep going to Pharaoh, who was the boss guy in Egypt at the time, asking him to let the Israelites go. Let them go free, let them go free. And as you would know, probably because you've heard this story before, Pharaoh was not very obliging. And so God gave him lots of chances, 10 chances in fact, to change his mind. But he did it by applying a little bit of pressure. So first of all, he sent amazing, terrible, disgusting, and really irritating plagues all over the land of Egypt. And so we're going to be making a pudding that will remind us about God's faithfulness to the Israelites, but also about how disgusting some of those plagues were. All right, stay with me, work with me here, kids. First of all, I am putting on my very special chef's hat, which, if you're going to make an Exodus Parfait Pudding Perfecto, you actually do need to wear. Some people say this looks like a shower cap on top of a piece of cardboard, but they're just being unkind. All right, so just to remind you about the plagues of Egypt, the first thing that God did, which was disgusting, was he got Moses to turn the River Nile into blood. Ugh. Imagine a river, a beautiful, lovely, flowing river that was full of blood. Ugh. Anyway, he had his reasons for doing that. So we are going to start with some red jelly, and that symbolises blood. So we can either, this is one I prepared earlier, I've always wanted to say that. Okay, so we can either make a little parfait in a glass. That's what a parfait is. It's something that individual pudding. Put some, or you could, if you wanted to, make a big family one in a bigger bowl like that. Okay, so that reminds us about the River Nile. It was turned into blood. It's okay, he turned it back again into water, don't worry. So the next thing he did, that didn't work. So the next thing he did was sent a plague of frogs. Oh my goodness. Well, you know, it could have been worse. Could have been cane toads, but it was frogs. So I've got some green frogs here. You can find them at most confectionery stores. Put a green frog in there. There we go. Then he sent a plague of gnats. Now, gnats are like really irritating little sandflies. They're like really, really, really annoying. They're tiny, so you can't sort of swat them very easily like a mosquito. So I got some desiccated coconut here to represent the gnats. They're just really small and it gets everywhere. So I'm going to sprinkle that desiccated coconut into my Exodus Parfait Pudding Perfecto. Okay, so now we've got the blood, we've got the frogs, we've got the gnats. That didn't work. So the next thing he did was send flies. Disgusting, horrible, revolting flies. And do you know how hard it was for me to find some flies to put in this pudding? I was swatting them all night. There's one, there's that in. Very good. And here's some others. Okay, so I've got some little licorice, chocolate coated licorice bullets that I'm going to call flies. They're probably the kind of flies that you wouldn't actually mind eating. Put some of them in. Okay, after the flies, which of course didn't work, the Pharaoh didn't change his mind and let them go. Then there was a plague on all of the livestock. So all the cows, all the horses, all the donkeys, all the sheep, all the goats, they all got sick. Really, really sick. And so I must admit I had trouble in the supermarket trying to find anything edible that was a cow, a horse, a goat, a sheep, or a donkey. So I settled for a tiny teddy. So if you have some tiny teddies at home, just pretend, well, it's an animal. I'm sure if there were any teddies around it at the time, they would have got sick as well. So I'm putting a couple of tiny teddies in there. Okay, that didn't work. So Pharaoh then said, no, again, you can't go. So then, and this is really disgusting. This is so disgusting. The boys are going to love this. Then the next plague was boils. Horrible, big, red boils all over people, over their faces, over their arms, over their legs, over their toes. They were everywhere. Disgusting. You'll never feel like a raspberry the same way again. Okay, there's some raspberries in there to remind you that the Egyptians were sent a plague of boils. Did that change Pharaoh's mind? No, it didn't. So the next thing was hail. God sent a big storm. This was all to try and change Pharaoh's mind. He was so stubborn. Okay, so I have here is the white jelly beans, and that is hail. There was a big storm. Lots of hail. That didn't work either. So next came locusts. I don't know if you've ever seen locusts, but they're like little grasshoppers. And I've never eaten a locust. It's a bit hard to know what they taste like, but I figure that they're probably crunchy. So I've got some caramel popcorn here to represent the locusts. Crunch, 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 crunch. Yummo. Locusts. You feeling hungry? The next thing that God sent was darkness. Darkness over the whole of the country. So, myself some black jelly beans here. Probably won't overdo it with the black jelly beans. Some people like them, some people don't. But they are black. And it was either that or licorice, and the jelly beans were cheaper. So, I'll put 2 jelly beans in there, black ones, to represent darkness. Imagine darkness over the land for like days and days and days and days and days. That would be so annoying. And then still Pharaoh didn't change his mind. So the final thing was, and this was a real big one, it was really a tough one. And Moses warned him, you're not going to like this. The firstborn of every Egyptian family died. Even the firstborn of the animals died. Wow, how sad and how terrible and how tragic and how awful that must have been. So, what am I going to use? Well, little chicos, of course, little chico babies. So they're going in there as well. As you can see, this is a very healthy pudding. And I know that your mums are going to be thrilled at the thought of you making this and eating it just before bedtime. Okay, so just to finish off, we've got this, all of the plagues represented here in this parfait. And I'm just going to add a little bit of custard just to make it more edible and also to make it look pretty. There we go, we can mix it up so that it could be a surprise. It's all covered up. You can guess what it is that you're eating as you fish it out of the parfait. close your eyes and try and guess what it is that you're eating, whether it's a locust or a frog. And just to finish off, Pharaoh did eventually let them go, and they got to the Red Sea, and the Red Sea was parted by Moses when he put out his rod. He put out his rod and he said something like open sesame, only it wasn't really that. And the Red Sea opened and the Israelites were able to go through to freedom. So that represents, it's a flake, that represents Moses' rod. And so folks, there we have it. The Exodus Parfait Pudding Perfecto, brought to you by me, Stephanie Kennedy, who has never ever been known as a cook. I hope you survive. I hope that your parents don't withdraw you from Jaffa Club when they see this video. And bon appetit. Richard, I made you a pudding. Come and get it.